We are back here in the Alico building, the Pete Sousa Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network, brought to you by Slovacics. Also, Crawford Austin Properties. Can't forget our good friends at Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, Socorro Family Ford, and D1. All right, we're going to pass it on over now to my conversation with Jody Conradt. It was really cool to talk to her. I've known, as a kid growing up in Philadelphia, women's basketball really started to come into my life in the mid-'80s when the sport became pretty popular, and she was at the forefront of that movement. So very familiar with Jody Conradt. Had a chance to talk to her in conjunction with our Texas Sports Hall of Fame podcast. Got to share this with you. This was just yesterday. Coach Jody Conradt, it's rare that we're able to welcome someone who has just been such a trailblazer for such a major sport, but that has been your role with women's basketball, particularly women's college basketball in Texas. It's hard to not bump into someone who's played basketball in the state of Texas that hasn't gone through one of your basketball camps or been inspired by you as you've coached over the years. What does it mean to you? Does it even seem real to have the reputation you have around Texas basketball?
Well, I would say that I never dreamed that I would have the opportunities that I've had through the sport of basketball. I grew up in this state, and so I have a great deal of pride about the state of Texas. And I'm very proud of the fact that this has always been a state that has provided opportunities for young women and girls, even at the high school and junior high level, to get involved in the great sport of basketball.
It's really cool now to see how there's a big spotlight being shined on women's basketball, women's college basketball. But I mean, in the '80s, you were bringing in 7,500 fans to your games. Governor Ann Richards was there. I mean, it was a who's who of college basketball crowds. What did that mean to you at the time where you saw, hey, something's happening here?
Well, I never dreamed that I would have, again, the opportunity to be a part of a great university that valued women's basketball and women's sports in general. It was a very magical time when people started to realize that young women were really, really talented and really committed and really dedicated and so involved in wanting to be a part of a team. And those teams were really special in terms of attracting crowds and really showcasing women's athletics and women's basketball.
As far as the schematic changes, you were one of the first coaches to really bring out, you'll probably give credit to others, but the full court press was a big part of your success, especially in '86 when you won the championship. Do you consider yourself an innovator?
It's sort of an interesting story. The first Texas team was a very short team. We didn't have size, but we also had a lot of quickness and some very athletic players. And it was twofold. I think the game should be fun. And I think the game is really fun when you play at a fast pace. You look to take quick shots. You try to create more offense through your defense. So that was a part of it. And the other idea was that we needed to attract attention. And we didn't think that people were going to want to see women play keep away. So if we run up and down, if we elevate our athleticism, if we play great team basketball with tremendous effort and energy, then we have a chance to make people understand and appreciate the level of play and the commitment that those players had to be a successful team. So it worked in our favor both ways. It was fun for the athletes, and ultimately our fans started to appreciate the defense. Again, not to just play defense, but to play defense to gain possession of the ball so that you could run down and score. So it was a fun time. I got the idea actually from a paper that I saw advertised by Dean Smith. And for $5, I think I sent in an order for his run and jump defense, and that became the basis of what we built on at the University of Texas.
That is amazing. That is I've never heard that. So you, when we talk about sports, a lot of folks talk about, hey, what do you miss the most? Well, I miss the locker room. I miss the camaraderie with with the girls or the guys or the women or the men. For you, that is an indication of just the family that becomes college basketball teams, whatever your sport is, especially though college hoops where there's a tight knit group. Do you look back and say, wow, like I have this extended family everywhere, all over the country now? Because a lot of these women, I'd say like 99%, you sat in their living room, recruited them, talked to their parents, and then you saw them off to bigger and better things.
I think you described it perfectly. I grew up playing basketball, and the value and the excitement and the thrill that I felt of being a part of a team, being able to do something that you could only dream about as an individual, that motivated me. And it, I think, also was an opportunity to practice some lifelong skills. And then that became my real motivation to become a coach, to get involved at the collegiate level, to have that opportunity to be extended. For most girls at that point in time, you felt like your career was over when you graduated from high school. So to open the doors to not only an opportunity for a world-class education, to extend your playing career and to showcase that and to have that experience longer was a big part of the motivation. And you're right, there is a special connection between players and hopefully coaches. I think back now on, we have an annual X's Day, and those players come together and they might not have seen each other in years, but they immediately relive that connection. It's like they've never been apart. And that now has become my very special day of the year when those exes come back, and not just for my relationship with them, but to see the relationships that they maintain with the teammates over decades in terms of what they experienced on the floor and in the locker room.
Now you're a Texas woman. You went to Baylor. Obviously, most, if not all, your career was spent having great success out of the state of Texas. When someone with that pedigree gets inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, what kind of honor is that?
Being in the Texas Hall of Fame is the honor that I probably value the most, because I am a Texan. I've never left this state. There is a special pride about being in the state of Texas that I'm sure many people appreciate and also recognize. So to be recognized in your home state is a very special honor, and one that is always meaningful as I reflect on the time when I was inducted, and to see the growth of the Texas Hall of Fame. Every year I feel tremendous pride to see, wow, I have something in common with those athletes or those coaches or those contributors. And it's not just their accomplishments and the stats and the things that they have established in their career. It's the fact that I feel a camaraderie and a closeness because they have their roots in the state of Texas as well.
In your roots, you have specific roots in Central Texas, right? You're from Goldthwaite. You taught at Midway High School in Waco after you finished up at Baylor. So I have to imagine there's a pretty cool connection you have with the city of Waco and the Texas Sports Hall of Fame being based there. That had to be cool, that induction.
The induction was really special, and you're right. I spent a lot of time in Central Texas and in the Waco area. I did go to Baylor. I did have an opportunity early on to know that there were so many great athletes and dignitaries that grew up in that part of the state, and that they were recognized there. So I have to say that the induction itself has changed dramatically over time. And the visibility and the credibility of that organization now is at the top of the list. So I know that it's the result of a lot of people working hard to make it what it is. But I also know that it is just a testament to how much athletics in this state is important, how many people participate, and how many people really find joy in being a part of the athletic scene in the state of Texas.
You really led me into my next question. You mentioned that word joy. When did you discover, and it could have been very early in your life, that getting joy out of this sport was actually going to be the thing that completes you, right? Because you can win all the titles in the world. I'm actually in the middle of Vern Lundquist's book, and he talks about Tom Landry and Tom Landry's faith, and that it deepened after he had great success with the Cowboys because he didn't feel as fulfilled. He still felt kind of empty. Was there a point in your career where you discovered, okay, the joy, right? The fulfillment, that's got to come, and that the winning will come right with it?
You know, even growing up, the experience I had, it was unique as we look back on it now, but it really wasn't. It was what was happening in a lot of small towns in the state of Texas. You grew up as a child wanting to be a part of your team, and everything was centered around the school, and everybody in the community supported. So it was the highlight of what was happening in Goldthwaite, Texas. And that inspired me later on to want other young girls and young women to have that same opportunity because it was unique and it was something that influenced my life. And yes, as you move forward, coaching is a winning business. There's no question about it. And championships and success is a part of it, the good part of it. But yes, as I've moved away from coaching, and I've been away from coaching for years now, it becomes less about the winning and the losing. It becomes more about the relationships and more about, I want to be remembered as one of many, many people that helped to provide opportunities for young women. So those things I think now occupy my memories at a different level than the individual games, the wins, the losses, the things that happened over the course of my career.
Okay, last question. You got you're in all the Hall of Fames. You got all the trophies. You're an incredibly decorated coach. So when young coaches turn to you and ask you, hey, what can I do to be successful? Is there one common thread that comes through with that you tell them?
Maybe not a piece of advice other than it's a very up and down kind of business, and the ups are high and the lows are low. And it's in a lot of ways very difficult. It involves 24/7. It involves no days off. It involves making a lot of sacrifices to really be good in the coaching profession. So I usually say, I make the analogy, it's like choosing a life partner. If you can live without them, don't do it. And I sort of feel the same way about coaching. If you feel like you can be happy not involved in coaching or not involved in athletics, then don't do it. But if it is your passion and you know that it's the thing that makes you professionally happiest, then go for it. Throw all of your energies and your efforts into it and live in the moment. I think a lot of times coaches start thinking about, well, at the end of the season, this is going to happen. Nothing happens in the future unless there's been a commitment on a daily basis to think about that goal and try to do something to achieve it. So live in the moment, enjoy the ups, suffer through the downs, but remember that this is your passion. This is what you do, even if you weren't being paid for it. And I can tell you that in some of those early years, I almost wasn't paid for it. But I never felt like it was a job. I always felt like it was something I had to do to express my passion and my happiness as being a part of a team.
Coach Conrad, I cannot thank you enough for the time. This has been a great conversation. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for what you do to support and showcase women's sports, women's basketball, and all the great people that make up the Texas Sports Hall of Fame.
All right. Thanks, Coach. I really appreciate it.